Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and in this video guys, I want to talk about the road ahead that launched yesterday. We're going to talk about my initial reactions. I'm going to do a couple of videos on this road ahead because there's just so much to unpack. You guys will see that even in the first paragraph of this road ahead, there is so much to unpack. So we're going to start off with just my initial thoughts, my summary of this, and then we'll get into the specifics of this road ahead in other videos. So make sure you guys stay tuned on the channel for that. Before we get into that, you guys know the drill. Wampa wants to be relegate. He needs your support. Guys, 5,000 subscribers, I'll hold a live stream and Wampa will hit relegate. Make sure you do your part, and remember guys, Wampa is king. All right, so I'm going to switch over to my, I'm going to switch my screen over here for a second. All right, guys, let me have just some, there we go. All right, so here's our road ahead that we got. And in this road ahead, there's this, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. The first paragraph, guys, we're getting a new Tuscan tribe, UI changes, a new hero's journey for Cal Kestis, and a new raid. That is huge. Like, that is just so many things that we need to break down. So we're getting the Tuscan faction. It's Tuscan Chieftain and Tuscan Warrior. They're both going to be in the game. They're going to synergize with Boba Fett, Scion of Django, with the Omicron in 3v3 Grand Arena. In 5v5, you'll finally have 5 full Tuscans to use as a team, so I'm very curious to see how this pans out inside of Grand Arena. We don't know yet in 5v5 what it's going to look like. In 3v3, this looks like another force to be reckoned with. Again, my thoughts on these 3v3 Omicrons are kind of like, right? Like, they don't get me super excited. Again, guys, this Tuscan faction, just one thing to note, they're going to be needed a lot. There's going to be a lot of stuff we need for Tuscans, so if you didn't like the way Inquisitors were pushed down your throats, hate to break it to you, but Tuscans are going to be the same way, as you guys will see. So right down in here, they say it. The Tuscans will find themselves particularly useful in upcoming galactic challenges, conquest feats, assault battles, and will be a focus of a Datacron set. I mean, there you go. Like, if you didn't like the way Inquisitors were, guess what? Tuscans are going to be that new thing. What I'll say with the Tuscans is at least 3 of them are going to be very easy to gear because they're old characters. The 2 new ones are going to be very difficult. I don't know where they're going to be farmable at. I'll be very curious to see how that all kind of pans together, but Tuscans are going to be needed for everything now. Yippee. Now, I actually don't mind this as much as I did the Inquisitors. I think the Inquisitors, it was a lot, it was 5 new characters and then really 6 with Grand Inquisitor, all right in a row, super necessary. And they were very difficult to gear. They were, they're all over the place. I think the Tuscans, it's a little bit easier. Now, the Crate Dragon Raid, right, is coming to the Tatooine. This is going to be really, really cool. I'm not going to read all of this different stuff, but it seems like here their focus is going to be applying debuffs because of this Defiance mechanic, and that it's going to be able to limit the amount of damage the Crate Dragon does. The reason they're able to give us these debuffs is because they're limiting the factions. One of the biggest things that was a problem in other raids is that they had to design so many different things to stop mechanics from happening. You guys know in the, like, Kylo can basically solo the, challenge pit, or like the, heroic pit raid, the heroic AAT and heroic Sith raid. Kylo is amazing in all 3 of those raids. Lord Vader, Jedi Master Kenobi, same thing. There were a lot of ways that you could get around those raids. In the heroic Sith raid, you could solo P3 and, phase 3 and phase 4 with Night Sisters and Jedi Knight Anakin just using the revive mechanic. It was crazy. So to stop that kind of theory crafting, and what the developers see it as is breaking the raid, they're limiting it to these factions here. I know for a lot of you players, you're probably like, gulp, right? This is rough. I actually am very okay with this. I think these are all factions that are fair for them to have. I mean, Tuscans, they said they're going to be needed. Old Republic, everybody has Old Republic from Jedi Knight Revan. Mandalorians, there's so many of them in the game. I mean, Maul is a Mandalorian, but there's all these other Mandalorians in the game. You've got Jawas in here. Jawas are that faction that's kind of like, hey, you know what? Gotcha. Hut Cartel, if you're in, late, mid-game, end-game player and you're not working on Hut Cartel, probably doing something wrong. That's how good they are. The general raid changes. The first thing they've done, if I summarize it, right, there's a lot of stuff to read here, but if I summarize it for you guys, the biggest change is they're moving away from this individualism in raids, where somebody could go in and solo the entire raid before you get a chance to play. So now they're moving into a more collective, cooperative based system where you're not competing against your guild mates. Everybody in the guild will get the same rewards. There are some other changes, right, to reward structure that they'll talk about. They can have a variable number of phases. Your legacy raids, which are your heroic pit, heroic tank, heroic Sith, they will stay the same. And they're saying they're going to release more raids. What I think they're going to move to, if I had to guess, right, I'm going to come back up here real quick. If I had to guess, what they're going to try and do is they're going to have the Crate Dragon raid. They'll have different raids with other, monsters from the Star Wars universe. Maybe a Wampa raid, right? That you've got to face Wampas. And the characters there would be Empire, Bounty Hunters, Rebels, Unaligned Force users, just for the sake of, some characters, right? That they're going to be thematic. And that's amazing. That's huge for us as players, that they're going to want you to have to focus on widening your roster, which is something I've been saying on this channel for a while, guys. Again, there is a maximum possible score which will scale with difficulty, and it seems like you can change the difficulty of the raid depending on the kind of player you are. And once this is reached, the attempt will end. The player will be able to submit the result if desired. This is so good. This is something that they're really trying to limit how much one individual can make a difference in a raid. That if you're a smaller guild and you bring in a merc to solo the raid and everybody gets good rewards, now that's no longer the case. They're moving to this. Your entire guild needs to be ready for this raid. I think this will break some guilds apart, but in a lot of ways, I think it's just going to right size guilds. If you're a player who's in a guild that's much too high for you, don't be surprised if you get lowered down to where you should be. I think Capital Games is really trying to limit I think one of the problems they've seen is that it's very hard to recruit players for guilds because the highest level guilds are always taking lower level players just because they need somebody to fill the slot. Now I think they're going to want those players who are on their level because of this. This change, though, isn't the only big thing. There's one raid only now. Instead of simming all this stuff, they're moving to one raid. My only hesitation here is they say that they talk about the gear, right? My only fear is what are they going to do about Shark Shop currency you're earning and how much you're getting from those raids. Like you can do pit every other day. So am I going to be getting enough rewards that if the crate raid is a once a week thing, am I getting all the rewards I could have gotten in a week? So I'm very curious to see that. They haven't, again, there's not a lot in here. They put stuff in red and there's, systems to the rewards. So there's the guild track and an individual track. You will receive rewards from your guild's track depending on the amount of points. You will also earn points even if your guild does not complete the raid 100%. That's amazing. This is a huge change. This is very reminiscent of Marvel Strike Force to me in a lot of ways. There's Marvel Strike Force, there's limited amounts of damage players can do because of the path that they have to follow, which is kind of similar to this. You get rewards based on how far you make it in the raid rather than 100% completion. The other thing here is there's an individual track, which is if you do more damage, you're just going to earn points regardless of if you placed 10th or if you placed, first. Like you could have 10 people solo the raid and they will get rewards. One, first, second, third, fourth, they'll get slotted into there. If you do the same amount of damage as your guildmates, you guys will both get the exact same amount of rewards. While they reduce the amount of locations you can earn them, they've said, look, you're going to get these rewards. They can retain, all these things. They're doing stuff. So it's just really trying to see how this is all going to play together. Again, they talk about these different tracks down here. There's a new raid currency that will be used to purchase items from shipments. It can only be earned in the featured raid. So what does this mean? Relic 10 is coming, probably, right? I mean, that's really where we're heading. Relic 10. There's something coming that this raid currency is going to be useful for, and I think that Great Dragon raid is what it's going to be. Again, guys, similar to where we are now, when you join a guild, you're in a period of blackout where you can't join raids that are already going on, and they're really just trying to limit merking, which if you guys didn't know what merking is, it's when like I would leave my guild, go join a lower level guild and do all of their heroic raids because I can solo the Sith raid, I can solo the challenge tank and challenge pit, right, or the heroic pit, sorry. I can do all those three things. Where is there's one thing. Okay, it is down there. I wanted to make sure I didn't pass through it yet. They're limiting the factions, right? And they say this here. I think I may have covered it a little bit more, but it's really to help implement interesting raid mechanics without needing every single character in the game. Again, there's design space that they can do, new things, and the existing raids will remain the same. The base difficulty for raids now is Gear 10 Heroic Sith. So if you're able to compete in the Heroic Sith, you're going to be able to compete in this newest raid. They will have additional difficulty that increases, and it will allow you to earn more points. And I like this right here. This is awesome that it's selected per player per attempt. So if in my guild, maybe I've got really good Jawas and I've got terrible Mandalorians, I can bump up my Jawa difficulty like crazy, and I can limit my Mandalorian one to maybe base difficulty. And that way you can earn more points, and that you're not like crushing your entire guild into the hardest difficulty because of a few people. The limited successful attempts, again, they're just trying to limit. I think they're going into this more collective, they want to reward a collective guild rather than one individual player. So I think this is good. I think it's, that's basically what all this is saying, is that they just want, guilds to be rewarded for being strong together, not because of one person. Again, they talk about the legacy raids. They will use the new raid points. They have guild reward tracks. The final phase will fend like they currently do. Have a 3-day timer. Starter guilds right down here. And they're going to be removing feats for specific legacy raids, which is fine. They removed the first 5 difficulty tiers of the Sith Triumvirate. Whoops. Remove that. And now it's just going to be, 2 phases, normal and heroic, just like the tank raid. They are removing the challenge ranker raid as it has served its purpose in their previous raid system. I think what they really said here is they never really were satisfied with the way the challenge pit raid was supposed to work. I think when it initially released, it was that whole collective is more important than one player, but I just think they never really were able to nail down the mechanics, and by doing this limited faction one, I really think that's what they're going to be able to go for. They talk about this raid blackout. This is really cool right here. Raids will run their full duration regardless of how quickly you complete the raid. So if I go in and complete the raid, you didn't get a chance to hit it, you'll still be able to earn those rewards against the raid, which is awesome. So the guild can still earn points, and they cannot be abandoned. So they're just going to remain open. They're going to be accessible from the event screen, which is awesome. That'll be really, really nice. And then we're getting Cal Kestis here. I know this is a long video, guys. I want to try and cover as much as I can. So they're going to be putting in Jedi Survivor. So Cal Kestis, right? He's an unaligned Force user along with several other characters from the game, which will cultivate in a hero's journey for Cal Kestis Survivor. They're adding in Sira Junda and Marin. Will also be there to assist Cal Kestis. So he's also going to have his little droid BD1 here. So the Sira Junda is going to be, unaligned Force user, which is interesting. A leader character for unaligned Force users of all types. I'm very curious to see how this pans out, but I think this could be a way that we can use Starkiller in more ways than we currently do. And then he's obviously going to work really well with Cal Kestis. Marin is a Night Sister, so she's designed to lift the Night Sister squad, which is going to be so cool. I'm curious to see her kit. I do not play this game, guys. I don't really play video games outside of Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, but this is really cool. I'm excited for these changes. Again, they talk about more of these things that, the new Hero's Journey version of Cal Kestis will be slotted into Jedi PvP teams. So maybe Jedi Master Luke is getting a lifter unit. And I think that's okay. Like, he could definitely use a lifter against some teams. So very curious how that all pans out. And then we're getting 5 new characters from the Jedi Fallen Order universe. And they'll be, obviously, look at this, conquest feats and territory battle zones, and new territory battle planet for Rise of the Empire. So that's they say that's a wrap, right? So I ran through that really quickly. I didn't want to cover every little thing. I covered the big things. Here's my initial reactions to this. I love this. I actually really like this limited faction in raids. I think that it's going to force players. I think one of the things that has happened is we went very narrow, and I've said this before, that everybody was building these narrow rosters around a Galactic Legend or General Skywalker, Malak, whatever the case was. Now the developers are saying, you know what, you need to build your roster out. That we don't want you to just get ahead in the game because you farm Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. Now, if you go and farm Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, you're worth so much less to your guild because of the Crate Dragon raid. And then maybe the next raid rolls around, right? Because there's no way they're just going to let this raid stick for a while. They're going to build new raids now that they can do this. So then maybe there's one for First Order where, hey, you did use Kylo, you can do that. And hey, guess what? Jabba, you're out of luck. It's all going to be about building towards these raids. It's all going to be about building towards characters. And finally, I think this whole, when we come down in here to the, where is it at? The base difficulty at Gear 10, this is something that has been missing from the game for a long time, is they're going to give you the opportunity that, you know what, if you have Jawas like myself, I'm probably going to take my Jawas to Gear 10, maybe Gear 11. It's very easy with the current gear situation, right? It's very easy to get these characters to Gear 11. So if you're somebody who you're like, oh, I don't have the chance to relic these characters, they're not asking for relics. The base difficulty is Gear 10. So if you go in Gear 11, some of these teams, right, to earn additional points, it's going to make you that much better at the game. So don't stress. Like, it's not like you need these characters at relics right now. They're asking Gear 10 is that base difficulty for you to earn rewards. And that is huge, guys. That is a fantastic change from this. I am a little nervous about the reward system. Just what I'm nervous about is with what, like I'm someone who gets a lot of rewards because of me soloing the Sith raid a lot. So how does this impact me, right? Like, what other changes are coming to the loss in shard shop currency, those other things? Like, how much are we going to be getting from these reward tracks, and how much of that do I need to get more rewards, whatever the case is? I love that the raid, even if you don't complete the raid 100%, you're getting rewards. That's huge. I think that was one of the limiting features of this game, was it was all or nothing for a raid. And I mean, you think like you could get all the way to like 5% left in a phase 4 and you didn't get any rewards. That's brutal. That was rough. So really happy about this. Overall, guys, I think this is a great road ahead. I think it's something that we've asked for a very long time. I mean, the Tuscan faction is huge. Like, I think they're finally coming back around and saying, what are factions that we've had people do some work on that we want them to do more work on? And I think these are the ones that they're starting out with, right? Again, guys, remember this lineup here, that your Tuscans are going to be needed for a lot of stuff. So if you're somebody who doesn't like the way the Inquisitors were, that you never built them, Tuscans are that next thing, and they're going to be a lot easier to build than Inquisitors. But that's it, guys. I want to wrap it up here. I'm going to be doing some videos where I break down the Tuscans, where I break down the raid, and more detail, just going into more detail about these things, what I think it's going to mean for you as players, and how you can prepare your roster for these coming changes. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are down below. As always, smash that subscribe button, leave likes, leave comments, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. May the force be with you. Cheers.